When I was a boy, I used to read comics about a spaceman who lived in a glass-domed city and traveled on a moving walkway. He used to take color video calls on his transponder. Fast forward to 2015, and I arrived at London's Heathrow Airport, got off the aeroplane, and stepped onto just such a moving walkway. I decided to call my mum to tell her I'd arrived. I took out my phone out of my pocket, I tapped in her number, and there she was, her face, on my screen, in full color. And it was at that moment that I realized that I was living the future that I'd once read about. The comics had actually foretold the development of technology. A decade or so later, I went to university and I was introduced to a different kind of futurologist. His name was Alvin Toffler, and Toffler wrote about future shock, or change arriving too fast. And that idea that too much change hitting us too quickly could destabilize society has never seemed more real than it does today. And yet Toffler was not able to foresee one thing. He did not see the arrival of an invisible, ubiquitous intelligence. Not space stations, not rockets, not silver jumpsuits, but a single tab on your web browser that writes your essay. And that changes everything. In fact, in 1950, Isaac Asimov already warned that in his 3 laws of robotics, that if humanity was ever to invent thinking systems, we would have to rearrange our code of ethics and also arrange how we behave in relation to that technology. And that's not a future scenario. That's now. Surely you all use AI to write your essay. It does it quietly, insistently, and without fuss. And yet we all continue to ask the same question. What will the machines do next? When will the machines take over? When actually, the real question we should be asking is surely the Hegelian one of who must we become in this brave new world? What kind of human beings? What kind of citizens? What kind of teachers? What kind of students does the future demand that we become? Because this is what AI can't do. It can't care. It can't ask the unprogrammed question. It can't mentor the student whose silence is not confusion, but fear. It can't notice the young person who is lost. It can't teach curiosity. It can only mimic it. In my work in education, I see the positive effects of what happens when teachers stop being the creators of content, when they become meaning makers by using the time that AI, which then delivers the content, does the marking, makes free for them to engage more closely with their students, to guide more, to care more, to ask better questions. And as we move forward, we find that as the rupture takes place between AI and ourselves, we find ourselves alone, with no one around us. We lose contact with reality. We have our ideas, we have our thoughts, We have our memories, we have our plans, and we wish to connect, but with whom? And so the question is not really, will AI take over the classroom? It's already done that in many ways. The question rather is, what kind of teacher walks into that classroom? And here's my answer. We do not need more teachers who compete with machines. We need what I call the servant teacher. It's an idea borrowed from the philosophy of Robert Greenleaf of servant leadership. Robert Greenleaf believes that the best leaders begin by serving, that their power comes not from control, but from care. It's an idea that's not theoretical to me, because in my first career in business leadership, I eventually became a director of an international company. And servant leadership was the way in which I got teams to be empowered and to work towards mutually agreed goals. I led by listening, I tried to care, and I brought my teams home. As I transitioned to academia, I brought these same principles with me, these same ideas. And that's why the notion of servant leadership and a servant teacher resonates with me so much. It's who I was, it's who I am after a process of lifelong learning. So the servant teacher is a mentor, a guide, a moral presence. They don't only evaluate performance, they nurture purpose. They are not the center of attention. The servant teacher is the center of gravity. And this isn't just abstract. I've actually seen it work. Not long ago, I had a student who came from a politically charged country to which he did not wish to return. He was having terrible trouble writing his final dissertation. No dissertation, no degree. No degree, no job that he'd been promised. No job that he'd been promised, he would have to leave the country. I began working with him slowly, line by line, a page at a time, encouraging him to pick up speed. And finally, he gained the confidence. He completed the dissertation, handed it in with 1 day to spare. It got evaluated. It got a good grade. He got the degree. He got the job. He stayed in the country. And today is prospering in his career. And I learned one thing from that, one very important thing, that the AI can teach the student to write, but only a human being can help the student find their feet. The machine will never do that for us. We have to do that alone. Of course, it isn't as simple as all that. It never is. The risk is not what AI does. The risk is what AI takes from us as we are doing it. And once that has gone, what is left? What is good? What good is? Who can tell? For who knows what worldview is embedded in those algorithms? AI can help education, but it can never replace relationships. As we move forward and discover the ways in which AI changes the world, we have to look at what is happening around us. And we find that the future is arriving ever more quickly in ever more unexpected directions. And we find that we have a decision to make. We can either step back, retreat, panic even, try and build walls around the classroom so that AI does not encroach even further than it already has. Or we can step forward and reclaim the heart of education, not as information transfer, but as a process of formation of minds, of values, of people. Because we do not need more machines that teach. We need more human beings who understand why we learn. We need more servant teachers. And this is the work. It begins not someday, not when policy has become clarified, not when the tech settles down, but right now, today. And to meet that challenge, we need to show up differently. We need to choose purpose over performance. We need to ask better questions. We need to empathize with our students with humility to allow them to complete their learning journey. Because that's what will shape the future, not the machine. You. Yes, you.